You know he's going to be picked up, don't you, Lizzie?
I'll just see what's going on out there. Grr. They're all out there still talking to that old buzzard from next door. Bloody funny if you ask me.
That woman could took the leg off an iron pot.
Bloody old troublemaker. Why don't they just tell her to pull her head in?
Yeah, it doesn't look like Fletcher's having much success in smoothing things over.
AB, have you seen Dor?
I thought she was in the house with you.
Well, she was, but she must have gone out when I wasn't looking.
Gone where?
Oh, I don't know. When the cops arrived, we thought they was after Peter. So Peter and young Martin took off the back way. Next thing I knew, Dor wasn't there either.
Well, you don't think she's taken off too, do you?
Oh, I don't know, but she isn't around, is she?
Oh, Struther, that's all we need.
These women are dangerous, and there's not enough supervision, only 2 officers.
2 officers is perfectly adequate for 6 prisoners.
Oh, that may well be. But what about the women inside the house? Who's looking after them?
They're preparing lunch.
They could be up to anything.
Would you like to go and have a look?
Yes, I would.
Would you care to join us?
Might as well, yes.
Well, as you can see, the house has been left to go to rack and ruin. The women are putting it back into some sort of shape again.
Pretty big job by the looks of it.
Yeah, but they've got plenty of time.
Look, how long is this going to go on for, these women running around loose?
Well, as long as it takes to get the house back into some sort of good repair.
That could take months.
Are you sure she's nowhere in the house?
I looked.
Well, how about at the back?
I looked there too. Oh, she must have shot through all right, B.
Oh, silly little idiot.
Well, she must have done it on the spur of the moment because she didn't even tell me.
Well, how far does she think she's going to get with no plans and no preparations?
I still say there isn't enough supervision.
2 officers is more than adequate for 6 women.
For 6 women, did you say?
That's right.
It's funny, I've only seen 5 women.
There are definitely 6 women.
Would you like to just check that, Mr. Fletcher? I did notice the women, and I've definitely only seen 5.
All right, since settle this, I'll call a muster.
For a minute.
What are you doing here?
Well, I reckoned I'd come with you. Well, I know how to look after myself when I'm on the run, and I don't think you do. You'll be picked up in 2 minutes flat.
Oh, look, I'll be all right. You better get back before they miss you.
No, I'm going to help you.
Look, I'm in enough strife as it is. I don't want to drag you into it too.
Oh, I don't care. I'm used to trouble. Besides, you need me. Look at the way you were carrying on just back there.
What do you mean?
Well, walking along and looking around you, that's a dead giveaway. Anybody watching you would know you're trying to get away from something. Look, I know how the cops work, and I can help you get away from them.
Yeah, well, you haven't helped me much so far. I mean, you got me to talk to that friend of yours, and she dobbed me in.
Yeah, well, I don't know why Mrs. Morris did that. But I reckon if it's my fault that the cops are after you, that's all the more reason why I should look after you now. Come on, let's get moving.
Well, where to?
Well, first thing we've got to do is get out of this place.
Come on, hurry along, you lot. Is this the lot of them?
There are only 5 women, Mr. Fletcher.
Where's Burns?
I don't know. She was here a little while ago.
Check out the back. Lizzie, she was preparing sandwiches with you a minute ago. Where is she?
I don't know. She can't be far away.
She's escaped, hasn't she? I said there wasn't enough supervision, and now there's criminals running around loose.
Well?
It certainly looks that way, wouldn't you say, Mr. Fletcher?
Yeah.
You sneak these dangerous characters into the neighborhood without telling us, and now they're running around free. No one is safe.
Doreen Burns is not dangerous. She's not a violent person.
Well, how do you know that? She's a criminal, isn't she? How do you know what she'll get up to? And you want to put more of those people into this house.
The people that'll be using this house wouldn't be dangerous criminals. They'd be first-time offenders.
First-time affair. And what are they if they're not criminals? No one in the street can feel safe. You should at least have told us of the plan before you put it into operation, so that we'd have a chance to object.
Really, Mrs. Reed, there's no need
I,
for
for
you...
one, will be calling a meeting to let the local people know exactly what's going on. To let them know they've got a bunch of criminals right in the middle of their suburb. Criminals who are free to come and go as they please and do exactly as they want.
Hey, Mrs. Reed.
Yes?
Why don't you shove it?
That's enough, Smith.
Well, she's giving us the irrits, Mr. Fletcher. Why don't you
I
tell
said
her
that's
where to
enough,
get off?
Lizzie.
A general alert's gone out on Burns. With any luck, we should pick her up pretty quickly.
Good.
By now, she's probably hiding in somebody's house. She could have even found some sort of weapon.
Mrs. Reed, I told you, Doreen is not dangerous.
She could be hiding in my house. I left the front door unlocked.
She'd fix your little red wagon pretty quick.
I'll escort you to your house and check it out for you, Mrs. Reed. I suggest you get the women back to Wentworth, Mr. Fletcher.
Yes, right.
Mrs. Reed?
You can tell your department they haven't heard the last from me.
Don't forget Doreen knows where you live. She can come back and get you tonight.
You're not helping yourselves, you know.
Well, if all the locals in this neighbourhood are anything like her, with fat chance we got her opening this centre.
Oh, she'll have it stopped for sure.
And whose fault's that?
Oh, here it comes. I suppose it's all our fault.
Well, do you think Doreen's help matters by escaping like this?
Hey, missed you at lunch, you crook?
No, I just want to write a letter to some friends.
Oh, want an apple?
Good. Oh. Judah, I wondered if you'd post it for me.
Yeah, sure, I'll run on down to the corner mailbox for you.
No, seriously. Now that you're working in reception, it should be pretty easy for you to just slip a letter into the mailbag without the screws censoring it.
They don't censor the mail anymore, not that Vera's left.
Well, they're bound to read my letters, aren't they? Hoping to find the names of some of my friends who helped me escape or something.
You writing to your friends, huh? Well, I'm afraid I don't want any part of it. See, too many people could get hurt in all of this schmozzle. By people, I mean us.
Well, that's why I've written to them, you see. To tell them not to do anything like that again. To tell them to cool it.
Well, that's good advice. I hope they stick to it.
Well, they're not going to be able to unless they get my letter. And I can't take the chance that the screws are going to see it, so... Oh, Jude, you will help me, won't you, please?
I mean, how do I know that you're not going to try and get your friends to bust you out of here?
Read the letter.
Oh, I don't like reading other people's mail.
Well, I want you to read it. Look, you've got a right to know what you're handling.
Yeah? This seems fair enough. Good girl.
Then you'll help me?
Why not? There's nothing to put a letter in a mailbag.
Hey, I really appreciate this, Jude.
Well, anything to put one over on the screws, eh?
Don't be so nervous. We're just a couple of young lovers out for a walk. That's why we're so nervous, eh?
Come on, Doreen, I like you, you know that.
Good, because I like you too.
Just wish we'd met different, though.
Yeah. Well, I'm probably too old for you anyway.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Will you stop looking behind you all the time?
There's somebody following us.
Huh?
What the hell do you think you're doing here?
I want to stay with you, Pete.
Yeah, well, you can't. Now, go on, go home before I knock your block off. Oh, come on, don't start the hurt little brother act with me now. Go on, get lost.
You better go, Martin. Take it easy. We'll be all right. Is it very far away?
No, it's not far now.
Come on.
I bet that old bag rang the cops just so she could get us booted out of here.
Yeah. I hope it was that and not Mrs. M.
How do you mean?
Well, we thought it must have been Mrs. M that dobbed young Peter in, but I don't reckon she'd do that.
Oh, I don't know. She was a screw, and once a screw, always a screw.
Yeah, but she's always been very good to us, B, and she's helped us a lot as a welfare officer.
Well, if she did dob young Pete in, that'll be the end of her. We'll send her to Coventry. She won't be able to do her job. She'll have to quit.
I don't reckon she'd do it. I just couldn't see it myself.
Well, the cops did turn up right on time, didn't they?
Yeah, but they didn't mention young Peter.
Ah, but they were looking for something. I think we'll be very careful of our welfare officer until we know for sure.
All right, come on. Bag it in. Into the bus.
Oh, God. Hey, Mr. Fletcher, what do you reckon our chances are of ever coming back here?
Well, now that someone's escaped from here, Smith, what do you reckon our chances would be?
From the way Jim carried on, you'd think I'd gone there on purpose just to cause trouble. The papers had to be signed. They were important.
Well, there's no way you'd know it'd cause any trouble.
Of course not. What are you doing, Bryant?
I'm going to move the mailbag, Mrs. Powell.
Nobody told you to move it. That box of stationery, start stacking it. It's all right. I'll get it. Wentworth Detention Centre, Officer Powell speaking. No, I'm sorry Mrs. Davidson isn't in today. Yes, I suppose she would be at home. An escape? Look, would you like me to advise her? All right, no, I'll let you do it. Yes, right, bye. One of the women's escaped from the attendance centre.
Oh, there'll be hell to pay for that.
You can say that again.
Who was it?
It's got nothing to do with you, Bryant. Get back to your work.
Yes, well, I'll go over to Wentworth and organise things from there. Yes, I do think there was adequate supervision at the house. Well, 2 officers to guard 6 women seems more than sufficient. Yes, I am sure the department will be most disturbed about it. Well, thank you for contacting me. Now, I really must get over to Wentworth. Goodbye. Oh, Doreen Burns.
Do you think anyone will be there?
No, never has been.
Oh, it's real pretty up here, isn't it? It's just like a painting.
Yeah, me mum said they used to hire out boats in the old days, but nobody bothers with it anymore.
Oh, suppose you brought all your old girlfriends up here, did you?
Yeah, 3 at a time.
Well, I hope none of them turn up while we're here, because it looks like a real good place for us to lie low for a while. Smells a bit musty in here.
Yeah, I don't suppose it's been used for a while.
Sure you didn't bring your old girlfriends up here?
Yeah, of course I am. I used to come here a lot, though, when I had a fight with my old man. So I thought I may as well make it comfy.
Yeah. We could be real cosy in here.
Yeah.
Oh. You're a bit of a fast worker, aren't you?
Well, I told you I liked you.
Yeah, well, I like you too. A lot. But we've got to work out how we're going to manage, you know, and get food and stuff like that.
Yeah, but can't we worry about that later?
What's that?
I don't know. You know what it sounds like?
What?
Sounds like Martin when he gets one of his asthma attacks. Oh, this place brings on a bit with all the dust. I brought him here once and he had a really bad turn.
Well, you don't reckon he's here, do you?
I don't know. Could have found out we were coming and got here first. Martin? 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 No, it must have been a dog.
Well, what were you saying?
I don't think we were saying anything.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, it is you, Martin, isn't it? Stop hiding. Come on. Come on, get here, you silly little bugger.
Oh, is he all right?
I don't know, are you okay?
Go on, get in there and change into your uniform. And be quick about it.
How you disappeared?
Door, the silly little bugger.
You heard me, Birdsworth. Change into your uniform.
Well, there's no need to shout, Mr. Fletch. I'm not doing nothing.
Don't ask me back. Just do as you're told.
Oh, fancy talking to an old woman like that and me with me sick ticker. I could have dropped dead at his feet.
If you don't get going, he's liable to make sure of it.
Has Mrs. Davidson been in touch with the police yet?
Yes, she rang to say she'll be in shortly.
Right. Well, I hope you know what you've caused.
Well, you can hardly blame me for this.
But can't I? If you'd have come waltzing down there in your uniform and stirred up that old dragon, she wouldn't have called the police. I might have had a chance to grab Burns before they knew anything about it.
Look, Jim, those papers had to be signed. Now, it's Mrs. Davidson's day off. What else am I supposed to do?
Look, you knew we didn't want to make it public that the women were prisoners.
No, I didn't stop to think.
Oh, that's a great excuse, that is.
He loses a prisoner, tries to blame me. Well, he won't get away with that. Shut up, Bryant.
It's all right, mate. Try and calm down, OK?
Well, it might be the dust, so hadn't we better get him out of here?
No, it's not that. Not this time. It's the way I spoke to him before.
What do you mean?
Oh, he gets like this if he gets upset.
What, breeds funny?
Yeah, it brings on an asthma bout whenever he gets into trouble.
What do you mean he's putting it on?
Oh, no, he can't help it. Oh, I suppose he can sometimes for sympathy, but not this time, I don't reckon.
Oh, don't get upset, Shrimp. Peter's not going to go crook at you again.
I went and seen him while he was hiding in the roof. I took him food and everything.
Oh, mate, I know you did, and I'm glad of it. I wouldn't have managed without you.
But now you just want to get rid of me. You don't want me hanging around.
Oh, it's only for your own good, mate. Listen, we're going to be in enough strife on our own without a little kid hanging around.
I'm not a little kid.
Listen, I know that. It's not that I don't want you around. It's just I don't want you to get into any strife. Look, Dad doesn't want anything to do with me, and I don't want him to throw you out too, mate.
I don't care. I want to be with you.
In a real stir, aren't they?
Oh, well, it's not too good for them when someone escapes.
Well, I reckon Doreen's mad. Nothing worse than being on the run.
Oh, surely anything would be better than being locked up in here.
Might look that way, honey. But if you spend enough time in a prison, eventually you're left with nowhere to go. It becomes your home. Can you imagine a dump like this being called home?
I want Doreen Burns' file immediately, please, Wendy.
Yes, Mrs. Davidson.
And would you make sure a copy of it is made available to the police?
Yes, I'm just about to knock off, so I'll leave a note.
No, Wendy, I want you to do it, please. And would you make sure they get good, clear copies of her photograph? Has Doreen Burns had any phone calls recently? Didn't she phone Mrs. Morris yesterday?
I believe she did.
Wendy, would you contact Mrs. Morris and tell her I would like to see her immediately?
Yes, Mrs. Davidson. Here's Burns' file. I have a copy of it.
Thank you.
What do you mean Doreen didn't come back with you?
Just that. She shot through.
By herself? Will she be all right?
Oh, she's okay. She can look after herself. I'm not worried about her. But this silly little bitch has gone and blown the attendance centre project.
Well, why'd she do it?
Well, I reckon it was because of that young Peter. He took one look at the cops and shot through, and I reckon the door's gone to look after him.
What I want to know is why the cops turned up. Mrs. Morris was the only one who knew that kid was there.
Oh, but I don't reckon that
Yes,
Miss
but
Morris...
she wanted Peter to give himself up and said if he didn't, in a couple of hours, she'd have to let the cops know.
Yeah, but they got there not long after that.
Then I think she rang the cops straight away.
Yeah, of course she did. Oh, she's a rotten screw, just like the rest.
Yeah, well, I heard Mrs. Davidson tell her to come in, so there could be some truth in it.
Well, I'm not much interested in what you've got to say, so why don't you go and toddle back to your little mate Andrea? If you ask me, it's her fault Doreen's gone off.
Andrea's fault. Now, how do you figure that one?
She and her stupid mate's putting the idea of escape into her head.
I just heard Lizzie say she could have gone off with that bloke that you told me about.
Yeah, well, fair enough, but she's been thinking about it ever since that rope came over the fence.
You sure screwed that one up, didn't you?
I don't reckon we should be rowing among ourselves. We're in enough trouble since the escape. I reckon we should be sticking together.
Well, she's too busy sticking with the screws.
Oh, I've just about had enough of you.
She's got that thing in her heart, remember?
Just as long as she remembers.
You can throw your weight around if you like, Bea. But it's going to be a long time before the women forget what you did.
Only if you keep bringing it up. And when are you going to get it through your thick skull that I did what I did to protect the women? Our women! Someone could have been hurt.
Andrea could have been out of here by now if it wasn't for you. You had no right to side with the screws. If a person has a chance to escape from here, then we've got to help them.
Not at the risk of the other women's lives.
Oh, let's forget the whole thing now. It's all water under the bridge.
Well, I reckon the important thing now is what's happening with Dor. Well, I reckon that bloody Mrs. Morris dog Peter is.
Oh, I don't know. She's always done the right thing for us before.
Oh, she's still a screw, isn't she? I'm wondering what if it's going to make any difference to you.
To me?
Yeah, to affect your parole.
What do you mean?
Well, everyone knows how friendly you are with Doreen, and they could think you were in on it.
Okay, I didn't think of that. Now you've got Sid's house, Doreen might think that's a good place to hide.
Oh, God. I hope they haven't gone there. The police are going to look there for sure.
Nah, she'd have more sense than that. If she's got any sense at all, and sometimes I wonder.
Oh, probably things are going to be harder than ever for us now. Tough as anything since the escape. God, Fletch was practically foaming at the mouth.
Just because you have submitted your resignation does not mean you can relax your vigilance over the women.
What are you talking about, Mrs. Davidson?
I am talking about negligence, Mr. Fletcher. That Doreen Burns was able to just walk away from that house is unforgivable.
I was trying to deal with the woman next door and the police at the same time. You've got no right to accuse me of negligence. I have certain standards and I uphold them.
A prisoner has escaped. Because of that, the entire attendance centre project will come to an unnecessary end. I'm sure you realise just how much that project meant to me.
It was probably going to be closed down anyway.
Why do you say that?
Well, that old busybody next door was determined to stir up trouble. Once she found out the women were prisoners, she rang the police.
Well, how did she find that out? I would have thought you had enough discretion to conceal the fact.
I did. But Colleen Powell came waltzing down to the attendance centre in full uniform. Not only that, but when Mrs. Reed spoke to her, she told her who she was and where she was from.
Oh, did she?
Yes, she did, and the rest you know.
I want to speak to her.
Well, I've already told her that
Tell Mrs. Powell I want to see her right now.
How is he?
Oh, he's all right now. He's asleep. I think he's worn out from all that wheezing.
Will he be all right?
Oh, I don't know. Normally he has to go to a doctor when he gets this bad.
Well, shouldn't you send him home?
Oh, I couldn't, not the way he is.
Please. What if he gets worse? What if we do have to take him to a doctor?
We'll just have to take him to one.
We can't. The cops will have descriptions of us all over the place by now. We'll be recognised. We won't have a hope.
It's all right, mate. Come on. It's getting really bad, Dawn.
But I don't quite understand why the police were there.
the nosy Parker next door called them.
They didn't find anything?
No, she called them because she found out they were prisoners.
Oh, I see. Then why does Mrs. Davidson want to see me so
Oh,
urgently?
don't ask me, but be warned. She's on the warpath.
Well, I suppose she would be with a prisoner escaping.
Well, I think it's more the fact that her pet project's been cancelled.
Well, the attendance centre was very important, Jim.
Yeah, look, you don't have to tell me. I was all for it, if you remember. I even went and looked at the damn place in my own time. Oh, anyway, it's all finished now. Now that dragon next door was determined to nip it in the bud, one way or the other. Once she'd gotten into the ear of the neighbours, they would have gotten up petitions and the whole place would have been closed down anyway.
Have you any idea why Doreen took off like that?
No, she just must have seen her opportunity and taken advantage of it.
Seems an odd time to choose, just as the police had arrived.
Yeah, but I know she wasn't missing before that. I saw her in the kitchen myself.
Ah. Oh, well, I must go and see what Mrs. Davidson wants me for.
Yeah, listen, she's with Colleen Powell at the moment. I'd steer clear if I were you.
Oh, well, then if she's busy, I'll go and have a talk with Lizzie whilst I'm waiting.
Yeah, right. Wouldn't like to be in Colleen's shoes right now.
You must have realised that your uniform could only cause trouble. I simply cannot understand what prompted you to do it.
No, I didn't realise you're trying to keep it such a secret. Anyhow, I don't see what difference it makes. The locals would have found out sooner or later.
Well, of course they would have found out eventually, but perhaps not until the work had been finished and the project was underway. We may have had time to prove that what we were doing was not a danger to the community, and time for the people to adjust to the idea and accept it. Your actions have just cut the ground from under us.
I can hardly be blamed for Doreen Burns' escape.
I am not talking about Doreen Burns' escape.
But surely that's the issue.
That is beside the point. What I am concerned about is that one of my officers could have been so careless in such a delicate situation. If you are hoping to keep the rank of Chief Prison Officer, then you will have to show a little more thought and discretion.
Well, obviously I just didn't think things through. I can assure you it won't happen again.
I should hope not. Near enough is not good enough. Not for my chief officer. That position demands precise decision-making.
I can feel it. What's up with the women? What have I done to upset them? Oh, now, come on, Lizzie. I can usually depend on you to be straight with me. You know I've got the best interest of the women at heart.
Yeah, that's what I always thought.
Well, I can't sort any of this out unless you tell me what it's about.
You won't like it. It might hurt your feelings.
Well, I'll take my chances on that.
Well, we think it was you who dobbed young Peter in.
Peter? You mean the boy at the house?
Yeah, the cops arrived just after you left.
But I told him I wouldn't contact them until I talked to him again.
Yeah, I know that's what you said. But the cops did arrive. That's why Peter had to dash off so quickly. We reckon that's why Dor went with him.
I see. So now I'm being blamed for dobbing in Peter and for Doreen escaping as well, am I?
Well, that's what some of the women seem to think. Of course, I stuck up for you. You didn't dob young Peter in, did you, Mrs. M?
I'm disappointed you feel you even had to ask me that, Lizzie. But I can understand them thinking that. Ah, so now I suddenly feel responsible for Doreen.
Oh, no, that wasn't your fault, Mrs. M.
I know it wasn't, but I'm still involved. Don't know what'll happen to me if Mrs. Davidson finds out.
Oh, we wouldn't tell her. None of us. Well, that'd be just like lagging.
Thanks, Lizzie. Just have to work around that one for myself. You haven't any ideas where Doreen and Peter might be?
They wouldn't have gone to Sid's house, would they?
Police would look there for sure, I'd say.
Oh, God. Peter did say something to me
about where he might hide out?
Yeah, but I can't put me finger on it.
Or is it that you just don't want to tell me?
No, Mrs. M. I just can't think.
Yes, Ted, I know that. Well, of course it's bad publicity, but... The minister. Yes, I realise that. Yes, I know, Ted. Yes, I know that I went out on a limb, but... Well, of course I realise it's my responsibility. I'm not trying to deny that. Yes, Ted, I will get you a report as soon as possible. Yes, very well. Goodbye. Well, the point of that discussion is that the whole situation is entirely my fault. That's the trouble with this position. It's where the buck finally stops.
Yeah, well, I just want to let you know that Meg Morris is in the building.
Well, I want to see her straight away. Why didn't she come here?
Well, I told her that you were with Colleen, so she went to speak to some of the other prisoners.
Well, surely she could have waited until I was free.
Look, Mrs. Davidson, I know this is none of my business, but is it about Doreen wanting to see Mrs. Morris?
Doreen asked to see Mrs. Morris?
Yes, that's right, on the phone yesterday. Meg called into the attendance centre this morning.
If Mrs. Morris saw her so recently, then she may know something that can help us.
Well, she hasn't said anything.
Well, I'd better find out. Ask her to come here as soon as possible, please.
Right.
Oh, how'd you get on with Morris?
All right. I'm as good as sure that she didn't dob young Peter in.
Why?
Because she said she didn't.
Well, you don't expect her to admit it, do you? She knows we'd never trust her again.
Oh, she seemed real worried about young Dor's escape.
Was it worry or guilt?
Oh, I don't know, B. Suppose it does seem funny that the cops arrived just after she said that she'd have to call them. But she's always been straight with us, so why would she start doing something else?
Don't go trusting her too far. Not until we're sure.
She was asking me if I knew where I thought that Peter and Dor might have gone.
Yeah? And do you?
That's what's driving me crackers. I can't remember. I know that Peter said something about somewhere, but I just can't remember. It's on the tip of me tongue. But I can't remember. I've just been sitting here and thinking.
Well, that's too much strain for you for one day, Lizzie. Anyway, even if you could remember, I'm not sure it's a good idea to tell Mrs. Morris. She'd dob him in them for sure. We can't have an escapee on the loose.
Yeah. It's rotten when you can't trust people, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Look at Judy. We've been mates for ages. This little bitch comes along and cons her, and, well, you've seen what happens.
Yeah, but she did have a bit of a point there, B.
What?
Well, I know you were doing it for our good, but it did look as though you was helping the screws.
I wouldn't help those bludgers, and you should know me better than that.
Oh, I know that, B.
Then so should Judy.
Yeah, well, I hope our mates don't get up to anything else.
Oh, before another stupid stunt, someone could end up dead.
It's that Andrea. She's the cause of all the rotten trouble.
Yeah, well, don't worry. She'll get hers. It might take a while, but she'll get it.
I would like to know why Doreen Burns rang you.
I don't quite understand why you're questioning me, Mrs. Davidson. I mean, it seems to imply that you almost think that I had something to do with the escape.
No, not at all. It's just that I don't understand why Doreen did it, and I thought you might be able to provide a clue for me.
No, I'm afraid I can't.
Then perhaps you would repeat the telephone conversation you had with her. Do you feel you're betraying some sort of confidence?
No, not really.
Mrs. Davidson, I was with Burns when she made the call. She didn't say anything of any real significance.
Well, that's right. I mean, she just asked me to come to the attendance centre and see them.
And so you went?
Yes, this morning.
And why had Doreen asked you to go there?
Well, I didn't know what to expect myself, but when I got there, it all turned out to be perfectly simple. The women were proud of the work they were doing and wanted to show it off.
And that is all there was to it?
Well, that's right. They just wanted to show it off, like kids with a new toy. I mean, you know how they can be. Well, I've got some things to do before I go home, if you don't mind.
Yes, I've got to be off too.
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, we're short-staffed, but I'm still here, and I'll probably be here all night.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Davidson, I wasn't thinking.
Yes, that seems to be the problem with my staff.
Is there anything I can do?
No, I'm sorry. It's just that I've had the most dreadful day. You know, off you go. I'll be able to manage.
Well, I can stay if you prefer.
No, it's all right. Off you go.
Well, if you need me, just ring me. I'll be at home.
Yes, I shall. Thank you.
Morning, Judy.
Morning.
How are things today? Mrs. Davidson in a better mood than last night, I hope?
No, Mr. Fletcher, I'm not in a better mood. In fact, after being here all night, I would say I'm in a worse mood than I was yesterday.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Davidson. You do look very tired. Don't you think you better go home?
No, thank you. I don't want any more of our prisoners to disappear.
You'll be of no use to anybody if you collapse. Don't you think you'd be better off if you went home, got some sleep? You can always come back if you feel you have to.
No, I can't go home immediately. There are still some things I have to do. I might go home a little later if everything seems to be running smoothly.
Well, there shouldn't be any problems today. I mean, the women won't be allowed to go to the attendance centre, will they?
Well, I don't think there's any point. After what Mr. Douglas said yesterday, I would say the attendance centre project is definitely finished. It seems to have gone the same way as all the other projects. I don't know why I even bother attempting these things.
No, sit down. Sit.
I reckon the screws must be cracking up. The whole day, though, before. She didn't seem to be herself at all.
Yeah, I didn't like who she was much.
And Fletch, have you noticed him? He doesn't seem to be interested in anything lately.
Yeah, and Powell's running around playing the angry ant, trying to fill Vera's shoes, but that won't last long. She hasn't got the guts for
Well,
it.
I reckon they're just living on her nerves.
Yeah.
This is your opportunity.
Hey, Lizzie, did you hear something?
Listen to me. If the establishment's cracking up, then we should organise a takeover.
Yeah, up the revolutionaries.
Look, I'm serious. Look, the thing to do is to put pressure on the weakest link. The way things are going in here, I could organise a takeover very easily.
You couldn't even organise getting yourself chucked over the fence. What do you know about running this place?
Look, I've studied this sort of thing. And don't you worry, I know how to organise. You wait and see.
Oh, I'll wait. I've got tons of time, and so have you.
If I'd had the opportunities you lot have had at the attendance centre, I'd be long gone by now.
Yeah? Well, Dora has.
Yeah, and what did she have organised? Nothing. I'd have had food, somewhere to go, contacts. They'd never get me back again. You lot, you just let opportunities slip through your fingers.
Listen to me, you Johnny-come-lately. We've been here a long time. We know how useless it is trying to escape.
Not when you've got things organised, it's not. That's what makes all the difference.
Well, you're so smart. How come you don't get out?
Oh, I'll get out all right. And it'll obviously be without any help from you.
Oh, that's for sure. That's if you don't want the screws to know what you're about.
You say one more word, and I will ram that plate down your throat, pacemaker or no pacemaker.
I wouldn't let a little thing like that put you off.
Screws.
Oh, G'day, Meg. You're here early, aren't you?
Yes, I got a couple of women I want to see. Lizzie Birdsworth in particular.
Oh, yeah. Her parole's coming up. No problems, are there?
Oh, not now that she's got the house to go to. But I just got a feeling she possibly might know where Doreen is hiding out.
You don't think she'd tell you even if she knew, do you?
I think if I explain a couple of things to her, she might.
Oh, well, good luck, but I've got my doubts.
Yes, well, so have I, but I've got to try. Did Mrs. Davidson stay here all night?
She certainly did.
Oh, and how is she this
Oh,
morning?
tired, depressed and irritable. Apart from that, she's fine.
I see. She'll be going home later, I suppose.
Well, yeah, I hope so. I'll try and talk to her into it later on, but I reckon I'm just going to get my head bitten off.
Hey, Andrea.
Yeah, what?
Listen, what you mean before in there when you were telling Bea to watch how well you could organize an escape?
Oh, I was just trying to put her in her place, that's
Really?
all.
Well, it
Yeah.
sounded to me like you might have been organizing something. You told me that you told your friends to pull their heads in.
Well, I did. You read the letter?
Yeah. Don't try anything stupid, huh?
Oh, come on, Jude. I learned my lesson the other day, didn't I? Anyway, anything I plan wouldn't be stupid.
Bills have arrived as usual. There's nothing in the paper about us trying to get Andrea out.
I suppose it was only worth the one story. Can't expect to be in the papers every day, can we?
They would have followed it up if we'd managed to get her out. Why did it have to go all wrong?
Well, at least we haven't heard from the police. That's the main thing. Well, they can't know who we are.
Andrea will never tell. What to do now? I mean, we just can't leave her there. We've got to have another go at getting her out.
Hey, this is Andrea's handwriting.
What'd she say? Hey, what's this?
Andrea's got a plan. Well, that's Erica Davidson, the governor of Wentworth. She's the one who's going to get her out. Well, it's all here. Andrea's told us just how to do it.
I don't think she'll be home for a while, I reckon. Let's get that letter. Right.
Mrs. Davidson. Mrs. Davidson.
Oh, I'm sorry. I must have dozed off.
Look, why don't you go home? Get some rest. You're worn out. There's nothing you can do now that I can't handle, so go on, get some sleep.
I suppose you're right. Jim, I'm sorry I've been so bad-tempered lately. It's just that, well, everything seems to have been falling down around my ears.
Oh, come on now. It's not that bad.
It wouldn't be if you would withdraw your resignation.
Mrs. Davidson, I thought we'd settled all that.
I'm sorry. It just shows how pressured I am.
Right, now, do you want me to get you a taxi?
No, thank you. I think I can manage to drive myself home. If the police do ring you about Doreen Burns, you will contact me, won't you?
Yes, of course I will. Now, go home. Don't worry. Get some sleep.
Thank you, Jim. You know, I think in some ways I envy you. You've made your decision and you've stuck to it. I always seem to change my mind and come back. Perhaps next time I won't.
Might as well have a bite to eat while we're waiting.
Yeah, we're going to have to be careful. We don't know what time she's going to get home. Got a funny feeling these books just aren't here for show. This woman's no fool. We're going to have to be careful.
She's the one who better be careful. She just better play it our way, or else.
Sorry to drag you away from your work, Lizzie.
Oh, you know how upset I'd be about that. Any excuse will do me.
Well, I just wanted to have another talk to you.
Oh, do you mind if I have a fag?
No, you go ahead.
What you want to talk to me about? Me parole?
No, about Peter and Doreen. Lizzie, you don't believe I turned Peter into the police, do you?
Of course not, Mrs. M. You've always been straight with us.
Well, I've always tried to be. And now I want you to be straight with me. We've got to find them, Lizzie, for their own sake. I mean, Doreen hasn't any money, and I don't suppose Peter has either.
No, I don't reckon he would.
Well, Doreen will end up stealing to get food for them, and eventually she'll be caught. And then where will she be? Facing a longer sentence.
Yeah.
And Peter will get a sentence too. Whereas otherwise he might have been cleared and just got off on a bond. Now, if I could talk to them and convince them to give themselves up, it'd be much better for them. You must see that.
Yeah. But why are you telling me all this, Mrs. M?
Because I just have a feeling you may know where they might be.
But I told you I can't remember.
Yes, I know you did, Lizzie, but that's because I thought you didn't trust me.
Oh, honestly, Mrs. M, I wasn't having you on, but I can't remember. Peter did say something to me once, but it's gone clean out of my head.
You just keep thinking about it. And if you do remember anything, you let me know straight away.
I'll try, Mrs. M. I'll really try. But I don't remember much these days. The old grey matter's not what it used to be. It mightn't come back to me at all.
Well, let's hope it does for their sake. I wouldn't want to see them in any more trouble than they need to be.
I don't mind doing something dangerous if we can just go and do it. It's this waiting around that gets on my nerves.
Learning to wait is a necessity for all revolutionaries.
Who said that?
Me. I just made it up. Maybe one day I'll be quoted.
I just hope this woman doesn't give us too much trouble.
Stop thinking of her as a woman. Oppressive authority, remember? She's everything we're against. How about a drink?
Right. Well, that sounded like it came from down the hall. Well, it could be her.
Quick, clear this stuff up.
We haven't cleaned up the broken glass.
Look, it's too late now. Come on.
Give me roses. I wish he could again, but that was on the outside, and things were different then. On the inside, the sun still shines, and the rain falls down, but the sun and rain prisoners too. When morning comes around, last night I dreamed we were together, sharing all the love we'd known, till I had to face the night it may